week 8 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I look to sell and trade this week. So these hitters, I'm not saying go out there and trade them just for anything to get them off your roster, but some of these players, I believe they're playing over their head right now, and they'll come back down to earth in the next few weeks. The first hitter, Maikel Garcia of the Kansas City Royals. So Garcia, he's off to a nice start this year. Way better pace than what he finished last season stat-wise. On the year, 5 home runs, 31 RBIs, 25 runs scored, 11 stolen bases, a 249 average and a 294 on base, where last season it was 4 homers, 50 RBIs, and 23 stolen bases. So already he's halfway there with the stolen bases. He's passed his home run total. And even the RBIs, he's only 19 away from where he finished last season. I know he's the leadoff hitter and the table setter for this Royal team, but he's definitely playing great baseball. But I think the RBIs are going to drop off. I don't think he's much of a power hitter. 10, 12 home runs at most we'll see this season from him, but he'll steal most likely 25, 30 bases on the year. So the last couple weeks, 1 homer, 11 RBIs, 9 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, a 294 average, and a 333 on base. So Garcia, his on base to batting average ratio isn't all that great. Like I said, the power definitely is surprising in the early going, where last season he was close to 500 at-bats, and he only hit the 4 home runs, and where he has 5 already and almost 200 at-bats. So he showed some pop early on this season, but I believe things are going to slow down for him a little, and I think this Royal team, they're off to a great start, no doubt about it. But things are leaving out for their lineup as well, where they'll struggle at times to score runs. May 17th versus Oakland, 1 for 5, a homer, 3 RBIs. May 18th versus Oakland, 2 for 4, 2 runs. May 19th versus Oakland, 2 for 4, 2 runs, 2 RBIs, a stolen base. And May 20th versus the Tigers, 1 for 4 with an RBI. So he's been on a tear over the last couple weeks. We know shortstop isn't the deepest position in fantasy baseball. So right now, well, he's playing good baseball. And like I said, he's playing above his averages here, is Garcia. I would sell him high this week. The next hitter, Jurickson Profar, San Diego Padres. So Profar, I mentioned him a few times already this season, and he's playing out of this world. Another guy you want to talk about total stats. He's passed almost most of his stats from last season already this year. 250 less at-bats here is Profar. So on the season, 7 home runs, 31 RBIs, 29 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, a whopping 335 batting average, and a 422 on base. I know Profar many seasons ago a top prospect with the Texas Rangers, but the last few years he's bounced around the league and not really a guy who showed power or even driving runs with a high average. Last year, 9 homers, 46 RBIs, and a 242 average. So like I said, throughout his career, he's usually a 250, 270 hitter at best his Profar, but he's on a tear over the last couple weeks. 2 home runs, 8 RBIs, a stolen base, 8 runs scored, a 320 batting average, and a 402 on base percentage. So Profar's playing great baseball. He's in a good lineup, obviously, with many good hitters. Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, Jake Cronenworth having a good season, Alexander Bogaerts, Si-Hung Kim. So this team's loaded, no doubt about it, offensively. And Profar's making the most of it, where he was usually a leadoff hitter or towards the end of the lineup, but this season batting third for this Padre team, and it's paid big dividends for fantasy owners and this Padre team in the early going. But I believe his numbers will come back down as the season goes on. May 17th at the Braves, 2 for 5, a run and RBI. May 19th at the Braves, 3 for 4, 2 runs, a rib. And May 20th in a doubleheader at the Braves, 3 for 7 with 2 runs. So he's been a hit machine over the last week here Profar. We're now in the last 4 games. He's been on a tear, no doubt about it, 8 hits in the time. But right now I think he's going to slow down. Like I said, so far we've seen him enough in this league where it's surprising that his numbers are at an elite level to start the season. So right now I just don't believe Profar is going to hit over 300 the whole season. I don't believe these power numbers are going to continue the way they are, where he's going to finish with 25 to 30 home runs. I definitely could be wrong, but just going off track record where we've seen enough of Profar over the last 5 to 7 years here, I don't believe he's going to keep it up. The next hitter, Luis Matos of the San Francisco Giants, are the hottest pickup on the waiver wire is Matos. And with Lee out for the season, he's manning center field and getting a starting job now as Matos for this Giant team. So he's been the big addition off the waiver wire, where he was pretty much 2-3% owned last week and now 40% owned in fantasy leagues. If you could pick up a player like Matos, who's been on a tear with 11 RBIs in his last 3 games, and flip him in a deal, these are the type of deals you do. Matos on the year, 2 home runs, 17 RBIs, 4 runs scored, only 30 at-bats, a 333 average, and a 333 on base. So his on base to batting average isn't great. He's a free swinger. We saw last season he had 228 at-bats, and already in that time, he surpassed his RBI total and tied his home run total is Matos. And Matos, he was one of the top prospects in this Giant system over the last 2 or 3 seasons before he made his debut last year. Matos, still a young player, only 23 years old for the San Francisco Giant team, and now getting an opportunity after their big free agent signing. Lee, like I said, is out for the season. So Matos, the last few games, May 14th versus the Dodgers, 2 for 4 in RBI. May 15th versus the Dodgers, 1 for 4 in RBI. May 17th versus the Rockies, 3 for 5, a 5 RBI game. May 18th versus the Rockies, 3 for 5, homer, 6 RBIs, 2 runs scored. And May 19th versus the Rockies, 0 for 4. So since Matos has pretty much been in there almost every day here, this Giant team's starting to get things going. They've won 4 games in a row now. Matos playing great baseball, but like I said, I don't see it keeping up. And especially 11 RBIs in 3 games, obviously that's unheard of. And it's just a crazy hot streak. So right now, since Matos is a hot pickup off the waiver wire, and someone who I would pick up and possibly flip if you could get someone to overpay value for him, this is the time to do it. The next hit is his teammate Matt Chapman of the San Francisco Giants. They have bigger free agent signings as well to go with Lee, and also Blake Snell and Jorge Soler. So they had a busy offseason with this Giant team, and Chapman out of the gate got off to a slow start, but the last 2 weeks he's picking it up on the year. 5 home runs, 21 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, 29 runs scored at 239 average, and a 301 on base. But the last couple weeks here for Chapman, he's getting it going. Like I said, 1 home run, 7 RBIs, 12 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, a 311 average, and a 404 on base. So Matt Chapman, we know he's had some pop and had some big seasons with the Oakland Athletics. Last season in Toronto, it wasn't a good year. Only 17 homers, 54 RBIs, a 240 average with a 330 on base. But we know he's a streaky player, is Chapman, and we've seen it now where he could get hot for a few weeks and help your fantasy team. So right now, like I said, it's only a hot streak. And if you got him off the waiver wire, now you flip him in a deal for a starting pitcher. I think that's the route to go for a low-end starter who could be your 5th or 6th starter at the back end of your rotation for your fantasy team. So like I said, Chapman's still available in 44% of fantasy leagues. If you want to add him and then see what he does the next week or 2 and ship him off, this will be the time to do it. In the 5th and final hitter I look to sell in trades, Bryson Stott, the Philadelphia Phillies. So Stott, no doubt about it, he's a great talent, but he's another player where I think he's just playing way above average for him right now. On the season, 5 home runs, 29 RBIs, 12 stolen bases, a 279 average, and a whopping 393 on base in the last couple weeks here. One of the hottest hitters in fantasy baseball in all major leagues. 2 home runs, 12 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, 14 runs scored, a whopping 378 average, and a 519 on base. Obviously, he's been getting on base 50% of the time, which is not sustainable over the last couple weeks here for Stott. Stott, I know last year, 15, 62, 31 bags, and a 280 average, where I think the batting average will stay in this range. Stolen bases, he'll get to his 30 mark, but the power numbers aren't going to be all that great. The run scored, they'll be middle of the pack here for Bryson Stott. And I know second base is a weak position, and that's why I will put him on the trade block and see what you get. Obviously, I'm not going to dump Stott for anybody because he's having a great season. But like I said, he's playing over his averages for the most part, I believe, besides batting averages, Bryson Stott. And to put him on the block and see what you could get can't hurt. And if you don't like the offer, obviously, then you don't trade him. But like I said, I don't think Stott's going to keep this up the whole season. May 15th versus the Mets, 0 for 2, 2 runs. May 16th versus the Mets, 1 for 2, a run, 2 RBIs, 2 stolen bases. May 17th versus the Nats, 1 for 3, a run. May 18th versus the Nats, 1 for 4, a homer, and that one, an RBI. And May 19th versus the Nats, 1 for 4 with 2 runs. So like I said, Bryson Stott, he's playing great baseball, no doubt about it. Second base, like I've said a lot this season, is one of the weaker positions in fantasy baseball. And if you could trade a guy like Stott and get someone to overpay, giving you 2 players or top-end type of starter, which obviously is hard to find in fantasy baseball with obviously injuries and a lot of pitchers just being mediocre, going 5-6 innings at best. This will be the time to do it, where he's playing great baseball. He's getting on base a whole lot. He's driving the ball with power. And I know the stolen bases and average will be there at season's end, but all those other categories I don't think will. So that's a few hitters I look to sell and trade here for Week 8 of the fantasy baseball season.